Violent thugs face stiffer jail terms under a new policy unveiled by opposition leader Matthew Guy. It involves mandatory sentences of up to 20 years for murder for criminals who offend a second time.
Matthew Guy says he and Victorians have had enough.
A revolution in sentencing to say that enough is enough, we will not tolerate this anymore.
And he's supported by victims of crime, including Tony Fiolides, the Toorak jeweller, robbed twice.
The government wasted $1 billion on a contract that they tore up. I reckon they can find some money for law and order.
And Katerina Politi, whose son David Kasai was killed by a coward's one-punch attack.
My son deserved to be safe on the street and he wasn't. Sorry.
Commit a second serious offence and you'll be jailed for longer than current sentences. Under Matthew Guy's new policy, murder would attract a 20-year minimum, rape 15 years, manslaughter by a single punch 15 years, armed robbery a minimum of 10 years, and aggravated burglary, home invasion or carjacking 10 years.
The time for excuses is over. Victorians want action.
With crime rising, Victoria's prison population has soared in 10 years, up 67% to 6,500. 43% are back in jail within 2 years of being released. And they're expensive to look after, more than $105,000 a year. Reaction to the Liberal plan was mixed.
This is clearly a policy that needs to be considered, and at the end of the day, what's happening at the moment isn't working.
I think it's giving false hope to victims of crime in Victoria. We've got a situation where we have no beds in the system.
The Labor government is also planning to toughen sentencing.
They have got no record on this whatsoever. Crime increased every year under the former Liberal government.
And Brendan Donoghue joins us now. Brendan, crime is surely going to be one of the biggest issues at the next state election.
Well, you're right, Peter. You're right, Peter. At this stage, it really does stick out like a sore thumb, and it's an issue that the government is really struggling with, despite announcing plans for 3,000 extra police. However, the opposition really does have to explain to the taxpayer how it will pay for these policies without cutting into hospitals and schools and also public transport. Matthew Guy today ruled out any new taxes, so that means he has to cut something or sell something to pay for his promises. Pete?
Opposition leader Matthew Guy wants mandated minimum jail terms for repeat offenders convicted of violent crime. But the policy has been branded simplistic, with claims it could cost taxpayers up to $5 billion over the next 10 years. State political reporter Andrew Lund.
Surrounded by victims of crime, Liberal leader Matthew Guy unveiled a hardline plan to keep criminals behind bars for longer.
The most revolutionary, hardest sentencing that Victoria has seen for a crime wave that is unprecedented.
Under the so-called two-strike policy, repeat offenders convicted of murder would face a minimum 20 years in prison. Those convicted of rape or one-punch manslaughter would be jailed for 15 years, while offences such as armed robbery, aggravated home invasion and carjacking would attract a 10-year minimum.
These laws don't affect anybody who's prepared to learn from their mistakes and respect the law and respect their fellow citizens.
The idea has been endorsed by police.
Our members tell us all the time that the lack of sentences that reflect community expectations are contributing somewhat to increases in crime.
Critics of the policy have branded it simplistic, saying it does nothing to address the root causes of crime, and they've warned it risks placing more stress on Victoria's already strained corrections system.
We need to be able to deal with all the various factors that are coming into the system, such as gang violence. The ability to actually manage this is more than just having prison officers. You need a multiplicity of responses, not just lock them up and look away.
Lawyers argue mandated jail terms don't work.
Cost of imprisonment is horrendous. You don't get any diminution in crime rates, and you get an increase in recidivism. That is, young offenders who go in come out usually for the worst.
Matthew Guy is refusing to say how much the policy will cost. The government estimates it could be up to $5 billion over the next 10 years.
If it costs more money, there is no price on safety.
Voters will deliver a verdict in November next year. Andrew Lund, 9 News.